Good morning, everyone, and welcome to University Unitarian Church. It's Sunday, October 3rd, and it's good to be together. Those of us who are here in the building and those who are participating on the live stream, welcome, everyone. Again, we remind everyone that as we are in the building, when we are in the building, to remain masked at all times. But you've noticed that we've moved maybe you noticed that we moved our coffee hour inside now. For the season, and so we encourage you to come and join us for coffee and conversation and sips of coffee and cookies, mask up and down, back and forth, just like that. We invite you also to extend yourself to those who are volunteering today, either as ushers or greeters or coffee providers, to thank them for their service to the church. If you'd like to do that too some Sunday, please speak to one of them and they can help make that connection for you. If you're new and you'd like to learn more about this church and Unitarian Universalism, there is an information session after the service downstairs in the Dix room. And finally, a personal note of gratitude to my colleague, the Reverend Patrick O'Neill, and his wife, Patricia, who were here last Sunday when I remarked that Monday last was the 40th anniversary of my ordination to ministry, whereupon they went immediately downstairs to the office after the service and said, "We want to do flowers for you and for your wife," and here they are, and aren't they beautiful? And thank you, Patrick and Patricia, who are on live stream this morning. They do understand how very important it is to have support on the family front if you are in ministry, and if you don't, you're not going to get anywhere at all. They have been blessed to share that with each other, as I have been blessed too with my wife, Annie. So I thank them, and I thank you for this. Friends, let us begin the service this morning then with our prelude. Let us enter into the fellowship of this morning with heart and mind and spirit. May our hearts be opened with sensitivity to the joys and sorrows, the hopes and burdens of those who sit beside us. May our minds be enlarged to understand the many languages we speak as we struggle to give voice to the wisdom that lies within each of us. And may our spirits be attuned to the deepest chords of reality as we seek to center ourselves in communion with the mystery of being. As we open ourselves in this hour of worship, may our souls find peace, and may the blessings of love be present with us in our togetherness. I invite you to stand or remain seated as you wish as we listen to our doxology and our opening hymn, number 324.
Good morning. My name is Leela Zelnick, and our family has been coming to UUC for 8 years. Our first Sunday at UUC as a family was Easter 2013, and our oldest son, then 6 years old, was not pleased at the disruption to his usual Sunday morning routine of jammies and YouTube. As we approached the front door of UUC for the first time, his face was covered with tears as he shouted, "I hate church! I hate church!" Still, he was met with pleasant smiles and an invitation to join in a variety of games and activities, which he ended up enjoying. Many years later, I'm happy to say that our entrances are usually less dramatic, but we are still welcomed in much the same way, with an invitation to join the community just as we are, fully deserving of dignity and worth. For our children, this powerful message of acceptance has been fundamental, and we see it propagated in their interactions with peers beyond UUC every day. As an adult, I am also regularly challenged by UUC to live out this principle. Ongoing church activities, such as BLM vigils and making and distributing meals for Lake City partners, have provided concrete ways for our family to live our values, affirm the dignity of the marginalized, and meaningfully contribute to our community within and beyond the church. For this and many other reasons, our family makes it a priority to contribute financially to UUC each month. Now, please join us in saying together the words that we say every Sunday. This church is a community of ourselves. Its energy and resources are our energy and resources. Its wealth is what we share. When we contribute to the life of this community, we affirm our lives within it.
Such a beautiful piece, so tenderly given to us. Thank you both again. Sung at our wedding 40 years ago. I invite you now, friends, to join me in a spirit of prayer and meditation as we take a moment to quiet and center ourselves, seeking that which renews us as a person, different for each of us, of course, but as a community as well. It is hard for us at times to be grateful for those we love and who love us, though who knows the why except mercy and grace and the willingness to do love's long labors toward love's deep rewards. It is hard for us to be grateful for laughter and music and family, rough and tumbling, to truly find each other and mercifully find our way home, often through each other. For rain on the roof, for wine and fruit, for moss-draped forests and Seattle mist. It is hard to be grateful sometimes for hard lessons learned, dreams blistered into beginning, and the terrible, lonely freedom of decision, for honest, artful words that unwind our tidy minds and bind them to our hearts, for mistakes corrected, weaknesses owned, changes made, and failures become teachers. It is hard sometimes to be grateful for those who show us the saving difference between cleverness and integrity, success and joy. for the traces of wisdom time has left in us, for old friends and good stories, and nothing to do, and sitting still, and listening, and watching, and thinking, and dreaming, and sleeping. It is hard for us to be grateful sometimes for peace and for justice, which is love with its sleeves rolled up, for the stubbornly fertile, painfully abused, incredibly beautiful, beloved Mother Earth, and for this fumbling, frangible human world, still bathed in sunlight and lullabied by moonlight. And all of this is a wonder to us at the tip of us. So let it be our prayer to be grateful for this meager much and to whisper gratitude. Thank you. I love you. Amen. Our second hymn this morning is hymn number 53. You will see the words here on the screen. I walk the unfrequented road. Encourage you to stand or sit as you are comfortable for this hymn. I'm going to start this morning with a quote from one of my favorite poets and writers. When I came to the Northwest now, over 2 decades ago, I asked a new friend here, I said, give me a list of authors and poets, true Northwest spirits who can help me to understand the spirit of the place. I've come from the other side of the Mississippi. I'm a New England Yankee. Some say a New England Puritan, and I've got to figure out what all this stuff is about out here in the Northwest. And so they gave me the list, and among the top recommendations on it, of course, was William Stafford, who taught for many years at Lewis and Clark College in Portland, Oregon. He was a poet and a writer, conscientious objector during the Second World War, a pretty remarkable human being. And if you've been on the campus of Lewis and Clark College in Portland, an old estate, a beautiful place, there is a Stafford room in the library, and there's much memorabilia. His son, Kim, whom I know, teaches creative writing there as well. But this is from his book entitled, You Must Revise Your Life. This is a book about writing for writers, but I'm going to expand the message or the teaching in it, not just to our writing life, but to our whole lives. This is what he said. We can all learn technique and then improve pieces of writing again and again, but without a certain security of character, we cannot sustain the vision, the trajectory of significant creation. We can learn and know and still not understand. Perceiving the need for that security of character is not enough. You have to possess it, and it is a gift, or something like a gift. You can't earn it or calculate how to get it, but it may come when you enter the life of writing with patience and trust. Dawn comes, and it comes for all, but not on demand. God, I love that guy's stuff. A couple of weeks ago, I was talking to the father of a friend of mine on the East Coast, someone I've known for a long time. And the father was complaining about his son and saying things like, I just don't know when he's going to grow up. Oh my gosh, I'm waiting and waiting and waiting for this to happen. And I said, Dale, how old is Bob now? He's 58. He's just not growing up. He's just not coming to it. And I wondered what it was, of course, then, what it is that defines maturity. Is it synonymous with age, or education, or experience, or sophistication? How do you know when you have arrived, when you are mature? When we say that someone is mature, we're saying that they're fully developed, maybe, or fully grown, or in Shakespeare's terms, as he says in King Lear, when ripeness is all. And of course, that's King Lear speaking on the heath. Ripeness is all, and he has suffered so much, and it's by virtue of his suffering and his stoic acceptance of so much suffering that he reaches maturity. That's Shakespeare's definition. But what might we mean by it? It comes to me that the most common image of maturity is of someone who may be impressive to a not very intelligent person. I'm sorry. Pompous, someone who's pompous, trappings of self-assurance, highly intelligent, demanding, worldly wise, often affluent, strong, yet I don't think really that any of these characteristics suffice. I would define maturity in a different way, and I would say that it really mostly has to do with the depth of a person's understanding. Now, for the most part, understanding is not a very impressive trait. It carries no cachet. You cannot list it as an asset on your resume. If you did, they would wonder what you were talking about. And while we should look for this quality, certainly in a life partner or employee or colleague, we often do not find it because we rarely possess it ourselves. When I talk about understanding, I'm not talking about skills or aptitude or worldly ways of manipulating or maneuvering in your life. I think Stafford is saying the same thing. It's not about technique. It's not about skill. I'm not talking about power either, especially. But what I'm talking about is how things are put together. Today, the word for this, of course, is, in academic jargon, intersectionality, announced to us as if we didn't know anything about this before. There are very few things that are new under the sun regarding human experience, and the experience of understanding how things are put together and relate to each other and cause each other and impact each other is as ancient as human thinking and being is concerned. So it's not just a new thing, you see. You may have a great deal of understanding about one thing, but very little understanding about something else. You may be a Nobel Prize winning brain researcher, but have one heck of a time with your adolescent child because you just don't understand why your kids are thinking and doing what they're doing when they're 13 and 15. You may have a very great understanding why your neighbor cries every time you see her. She lost her husband only a year ago, but when you're in the neighborhood and you see her teary, and you understand what that's about, but you have no understanding at all about the stock market. You may have a very great understanding why you are distracted right now in this moment, and perfectly no clue as to why I have chosen this topic this morning. All good, it's okay. So I think a part of maturity, a very big part, is this quality of understanding, and another part is understanding the difference between understanding and skill. One can be very skillful with very little understanding. Being a technician is no guarantee that you possess emotional intelligence, sensitivity, or insight. And a mature person knows that. This in no way diminishes the skills that we need, but there is a very different level of awareness, and I think a very different level of appreciation, and a very different kind of quality of involvement if you understand. In the West, we live with a culture that militates against maturity. I don't think there's any doubt about it. We are largely still a technical culture. Even though there is a massive shift from the industrial to the information age, our civilization is built on techniques and skills, on constructing machines, devices that now move information around. And in our society, the people who are most valued and compensated are the ones who know how to work in this area, how to operate these things, how to enter data and material and retrieve the same. These are all techniques. They are very valuable techniques. And whether or not we really need these things sometimes is a question most often neglected. The big issue, of course, is always discernment. We may have these toys, but do we really know how to use them to our best advantage? Isn't it perfectly clear that I do not need to spend 2 or 3 hours every day on my phone reading all kinds of things, looking at all kinds of images, hearing about all kinds of insignificant things on Facebook about all kinds of people, enjoying this for 2 hours, but then turning it off and feeling horrible about myself. In such an understanding, a scenario, understanding may be an impediment to the skill of creating more and more things, because the market is the driver here, even if it produces things that are temporal, transitory, and sometimes of no importance. I can remember an experience I had as an 8th grader when I appeared to be nothing more than a total annoyance to my science teacher. I asked, "Why does this chemical compound react in this way to that compound when the temperature drops to 20 degrees Celsius. I don't understand why it does that. Well, I knew the answer, and I knew the formula, and I knew how to get it. But why? Why does it do that? You see, who cares? As long as you get the right answer. You don't have to understand these things. A third grader I used to tutor in Hartford in an inner city school had already learned by the third grade that he didn't really need to understand most things. He just needed to find the best way to get the right answer at the right moment. And I had a devilish time trying to pique his curiosity beyond that, because in many ways his education had already ended by the third grade. And I often think of him all these many years later in terms of what happened to him, because it used to be the case, and I still think it is in many inner city schools, that by the 7th grade, almost all of those students have decided whether or not they will finish high school or whether they will join a gang. It's just the reality, unfortunate as it is. Well, my goodness. I'd like, if I might, to suggest just a couple of things that I think are the qualities of maturity. It's my list. You have your own list. You'll hear things and you'll say, oh, no, that's not it. You'll send me an email. I get these emails every week from people who tell me that this is how you can improve what you're saying up there on Sunday, John, you see. This has been going on all the time I've been a minister, and it's really quite wonderful. I can remember capital campaign consultants in a former church. They had never worked with Unitarian Universalists before. And after about 2 or 3 weeks with us, they came to me, it was a husband and wife team, and said, oh my goodness, how do you do this every week? I mean, we've been meeting your people, and yikes, most of them seem a whole lot smarter than you are. And what do you do? What do you say up there on Sunday? And I said, well, this is part of the challenge and part of the joy of it, because by and large, they're good, thoughtful, sophisticated people, and they have ideas and impressions and experiences that they need to share. So you send me something if you don't hear anything here that is going to help you today. I think these qualities that make for maturity is something we need to work on, not when we are older. If it waits until then, it isn't going to happen. I think it has to begin when you're a child. The time for developing maturity is when we're young. And if our educational system cannot help us with this, then they are failing in a very big primary responsibility. So what are some of my suggestions to you? Well, number one, Nietzsche, the philosopher Nietzsche, said, maturity is to have regained the seriousness that one had as a child at play. Isn't that wonderful? Maturity is the ability to retain or go back and regain the seriousness that you had as a child at play. And I know how important this is. Being privileged to take care of our 1-year-old grandson 2 days a week, my wife and I marvel from week to week at the development of this young little mind and hand and eye coordination, and the language is just beginning too, and he's able to do things now he couldn't do 3 weeks ago, and wow, this is just a marvel and a mystery. And our hope is that we're going to have this kind of proximity all his growing up, so that he just won't be a precious little golden curled 1-year-old, but when he's at that sweet age of the 2s and the 13s and all the other kinds of things, well, I'll probably tell you another story when that happens, okay, if I'm still around. And you can tell me some of those stories too. But that's the first quality that makes for maturity, and that is the appreciation of childhood and youth and young people, their ideas, their dreams, their ambitions, their growing capacities, their hopes for the world. There is a beautiful line in an old prayer that says, and may we not stand in the shadow of the timely joy of those younger than ourselves. Meaning, as you encounter the child and you hear their dreams and their hopes, regardless of their age, you in your sophistication might say, oh, poor benighted little kid, he's really going to get it on the chin when he's a little bit older. Life is tough. It doesn't work that way. You know, all that kind of stuff. Hey, let it be. Let it be. Let it be precious. Let it be sweet for as long as it can be sweet. And just be as close as you can be when he does fall or she does fall, so that you can be there to comfort them and hold them. An appreciation of childhood, its beauty, its transience, its open-heartedness, its simple joy, its ebullience, I think, are all to be reverenced. And as we get older, we understand a little better the limitations, but now is the time to reverence and respect those qualities, and without them, there's no progress. So that's one quality. A second quality I'd call self-awareness. A mature person is self-accepting, and the hope here is that as we age, we're better able to accept our vanity. We have to start on this when we're young, okay? Oh, you young people, this is when we've got to start on this. The younger the better. Accept our pride and our weakness and our failures, our capacity to accept our frailties, our worries, our limits, the ability to accept the fact that we too someday shall die and leave this glorious place and all those we love and care for as a natural part of a natural story. Accepting these things about ourselves. Indeed, indeed. Third is patience. Aging should lead to patience, not querulousness or impatience. It should lead to patience because as we age, we understand that most of what we want to have happen isn't going to happen in our lifetimes. It's not going to go our way, not now, but maybe later, maybe in our kids' lifetimes or their kids' lifetimes. The older we get, we realize we're not going to do everything. When I was a very young minister, one of my duties was to visit the retirement centers in our community, the many members we had in those communities. I remember visiting one that housed some amazing older people. And one of them I would go to see, her name was Abigail Adams Elliott. Now, isn't that a New England Unitarian name, Abigail Adams Elliott? Her brother had been the president of the Unitarians, Frederick May Elliott. I went to see her, and she was in her chair in her room complaining very gently, as she would, and she had fallen, and she was no longer able to walk around the pond that was on site of the retirement center, 2 miles. And she looked at me and she said, John, at age 97, I guess I'm just getting older, and I can't do everything that I had hoped I might do. Oh, bless you. 97, I'm never going to get there. But anyway, I still can't get around the pond, but that's okay. That's okay. Nature is long. History is long. And we hope that the future is long too. So, an appreciation of children, self-acceptance, patience, hopefulness. Maturity should mean more of this, not less. Not the cynicism and bitterness which can be obtained cheaply. There's no value in this life without hope for something more than we have had. And though it may not come in our time, it may still come. This is not naivete, nor innocence, nor lack of awareness of our fragility and weakness, and stupidity and selfishness. I still believe that peace is possible. I still believe that justice is work worth fighting for, sacrificing for. Will it ever be totally achieved in any of our lifetimes? Oh, no. But we do what we can with what we have now, and we still believe that it is possible. This is the stance that says, in spite of all the shortcomings, all the times I've failed, we have failed, there is still a good that is yet to be. And I would call this a kind of sober helpfulness. Fifth, sensitivity. If we've lived to any age at all, we should value the gift which has been given to us with a sensitivity even poets fail to express. And I think that's why I probably like poetry so much, because it points to something that the words are inadequate to fully convey. Paul Tillich, the theologian, said that the awareness of the ambiguity of our highest achievements, as well as one's deepest failures, is a definite symptom of maturity. The awareness of the ambiguity of what we think has been the most important thing we've done or the biggest failure we have had is a symptom of maturity. We should live long enough to know that our anger and our frustration, however helpful in the moment, are not enough, really. And our power, however great, is not enough. And our intelligence and sophistication, however clear and precise, not enough. For when we get through with all of our anger and intelligence and power, there may come a time when all we need to do is to sit next to another person and hold their hand and feel their breathing and be responsive and aware and maybe cry with them and sympathize with them. And there is no life of any worth without sensitivity. We know this the more we get older. I would hope, don't we? I hope. Sixth is respect, and I'm winding out now. I think we should have increasingly more respect for the incredible diversity of gifts in the myriad of persons we encounter in our lives, and that we should constantly put ourselves into proximity with people who are different than we are, who have different values and different understandings and different ways of being in the world. You know, when we were going into search for another minister here, now 6 years ago, I think, I worked with that committee and I said, you know, the very last thing this church needs is another me. What they need, what we need, what I need is someone who is really different from me, who's come from a different part of the country, a different family, a different racial background, different education, someone who's younger, all of these, and we got it. We got all of these things, you see, in Beth. And I said to myself beforehand, this is not going to be easy for me because I'm getting older, and this is going to require a lot of change and a lot of adjustment and a lot of head scratching, and I'm going to say, I don't know what she means by that, but I'm trying to understand, and I'm trying to appreciate, and I'm trying to pare down my own prejudices and biases and limited understanding and experience to go to a different place and to learn how to respect and cherish a colleague who is so different from myself. And I think I've been able to do that. Boy, it was been worth it all this time. Lastly, my friends, is the quality of awe. I think Socrates was right when he said, the one who best understands is the one who doesn't understand at all. No matter how wise we are, we really know that we really do not understand fully. And we try and we try. And in the end, all we can say is actually, wow, isn't it just beautiful though? Isn't it wonderful? Gosh. And then we understand so much more even when we don't understand. Have you had that experience? It's just so amazing. So you surrender to the awe of the moment. And if you could just convince each other, we could, that maturity requires sensitivity and awe, it would change what we respect. Okay, there it is. That's my list. Cherishing children, youth, young adults, self-acceptance, patience, hopefulness, sensitivity, respect, and awe. I'm going to close with a poem, of course, given to me so very long ago by one of my first mentors in ministry. He said it to himself every day, and I share it with you now, from John Hall Wheelock. Here in my curving hands I cup this quiet dust. I lift it up. Here is the mother of all thought. Of this the shining heavens are wrought, the laughing lips, the feet that rove, the face, the body that you love. Mere dust, no more, yet nothing less. And this dust has suffered consciousness, passion and terror. This again shall suffer passion, death and pain. For as all flesh must die, so all dust shall live. 'Tis natural, but hardly do I understand. So may it be. Amen. Our closing hymn this morning is hymn number 295. There we go. Thanks. If you see God, may God be with you. If you embrace life, may life return your affection. If you seek a way, may a path be found, and the courage and wisdom and companionship to take it step by step. We are enormously blessed. Let us be grateful. Have a good week.